that bridge, fellas. The Nets have hired a new head coach, and it's Hall of Fame point guard Steve Nash. Adrian Wojnarowski reporting this news. It's a 4-year deal for Nash. Interim coach Jacques Vaughn will stay on as an assistant. Here's part of GM Sean Marks' statement, quote, "In Steve, we see a leader, communicator, and mentor who will garner the respect of our players." Stephen A., talk to me.
Max Kellerman, Molly, this is one of the toughest positions that I've ever had to take in my career on First Take. And here is why. I want to first state that Steve Nash has no coaching experience. But if you talk about an outlier, an individual that is just special on so many levels, it is Steve Nash. Not just as a player, but his mentorship to some degree with Steph Curry. The brothers that he has looked out for and supported when Quentin Richardson was his teammate and he took money off his plate to make sure Quentin Richardson got paid. When he had his man Steven Jackson, his former teammate, his teammate at the time, living with him and took him in and looked out for him. The respect that he has around the league, his smarts, his intelligence, his basketball IQ. Steve Nash is a sensational dude. And if anybody deserves this opportunity, absent the experience that obviously he has as a coach, it is him. It happened for Steve Kerr, who had never coached on any level before, but he took over Golden State, and look at the job that he's done. Steve Nash is widely respected and loved by a whole bunch of people in the NBA, black, white, and beyond. Congratulations to him. He deserves it. I get it. But this ain't about him, what I'm about to say. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no way around this. This is white privilege. This does not happen for a black man. No experience whatsoever on any level as a coach. And you get the Brooklyn Nets job. I know that Kyrie and KD have both signed off on this. I know they both support this move. But I'm thinking about a champion that is Ty Lue, passed up. I'm thinking about a guy who built the foundation for the Golden State Warriors in Mark Jackson, passed up. I'm thinking about the years that Sam Cassell has served as an assistant, first in the nation's capital in D.C., and now with the Los Angeles Clippers, passed up. And it's for a guy, my God, one of the best guys you could possibly meet in your life, and may do a fantastic job, but a guy that has no experience whatsoever. In these times where we're making all of this noise about social justice, I got news for y'all, Molly and Max. I have said this to people on numerous occasions right here on this show. Yes, that was the tipping point. George Floyd's killing, his murder, violence against black men who are unarmed. All of that stuff is true. But the frustration, the protest, and all of these things that you've seen in the streets throughout America, emanating from the black community and disenfranchised communities, is that proverbial glass ceiling. And the fact that it breeds a level of frustration that we can't even put into words sometimes. You just want to scream to the high heavens. How the hell does this always happen for somebody else other than us? Why is it that we have to be twice as good to get half as much? Why is it that no matter what we do and how hard we work and how we go through the process and the terrain of everything, somehow, some way, there's another excuse to ignore that criteria, to ignore those credentials, and instead bypass it and make an exception to the rule for someone other than us. So I'm depressed right now because I have to bring that up. Because Steve Nash doesn't deserve it. I think Steve Nash is going to do a hell of a job in Brooklyn. I think that he's going to resonate with Kyrie and KD. And not only that, his record in terms of looking out for one brother after another. I love this brother, Steve Nash. He is a beautiful person, and I'm so happy for him just on its face. But when I take into account all that it entails, and I think about the black men that were passed up in Brooklyn, New York, New York City, we got Thibodeau at Madison Square Garden, who's obviously highly respected and deserves it. And now we got Steve Nash, who has no coaching resume, but a lot of people believe in him, and they should. Yet again, we find ourselves looking at a situation as black people. You know what? Everything as egregious as it is to kill an unarmed black man, to shoot him, and things of that nature, there are a multitude of ways where black folks, particularly black men, have been sliced and diced up and thrown out to pasture. And if I'm Sam Cassell, if I'm Ty Lue, if I'm Mark Jackson and these boys, that's how I'm feeling right now when I heard the news that two superstars in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving signed off on this man being the new head coach in Brooklyn. I'm sure he's going to do a good job. I know Kyrie and KD ain't going to lose. I'm just saying, damn, as time changes, things remain the same.
Well, I understand the sentiment. In this case, however, Stephen A., and by the way, I realize always when there's a white guy who's hired, it's always, well, in this case. But in this case, Steve Nash was, I think they called it a player development consultant with the Warriors, right? When, like, right before KD got there.
He was.
But he was really
That's
more
true.
like a player development coach, particularly with KD. And they worked together a lot, and I'm sure formed a bond. And you can't tell me that KD didn't have veto power here, at least, right? If not, was consulted. I mean, if I ran an organization before I hired the captain. What's that? Right.
He completely signed off.
So
yeah,
from what I was, and I would say that KD is very aware of the moment we're in, and yet he signed off on this. So while under many circumstances, were there a hire of a white coach with no coaching background, really, although again, with the Warriors, he's kind of a coach, I would understand what you're saying. But I'm going to butt in this case you. But in this case, if the most important player in your franchise's history in the NBA, I mean, you can go back to the ABA with Dr. J, but in the Nets' history in the NBA, the most important player so far is KD, who hasn't yet played for them. And if that guy has really a coach that he related to and bonded with and worked with, and really, did KD take his game to a new level in Golden State, or was he just on a great team, and now you plop KD down into that great team? Of course, they're going to win championships. I would say, if anything, he got even better as an overall player with Golden State in terms of his defense and his passing and everything. So if he has a guy who he's like, yeah, that guy works for me, and he signs off, even at this moment in time, Stephen A., where I agree that optics are important and that you want to increase the number of black hires and at the coaching level. And if people say, well, why not just the best man for the job? And well, in a league that's way more than 50% African American, why would the presumption be that more than 50% of the best candidates for the job, coaching jobs, aren't African American? So I get all of that. I wouldn't give. Now, a 4-year contract is interesting to me. They gave him a lot of security. They're saying, like, this is not like looking over your shoulder kind of thing. You go. A 4-year contract raised my eyebrows. But the hiring of Steve Nash, because it's a KD team, I understand.
Well, I'm not going to sweat the 4 years. The reason why is because Steve Kerr got 5 years when he got the Golden State job, and Derek Fisher got 5 years from the New York Knicks.
Yep, my eyebrows were raised then, too. I'm not going to
sweat that. I'm not going to sweat that. That's number one. But number two, here's the bottom line, Max Kellerman. You know what? When we bring up black management, we know most of the managers, most general managers, president of basketball operations are white. Okay, we get all of that. We also know every owner but Michael Jordan is white. So now we get to the head coaching ranks, because when you go to GM or president of basketball operations, there are 9 blacks in those positions officially, but only 1 out of the 9 has complete and final say, and that would be Masai Ujiri.
And how's he doing?
He coaches in another country, which is Canada. He coaches in another country. He ain't in America, okay? And we all love Masai.
Yeah, well,
and so we understand his shining example. Hold on, Max. We know that the shining example that he has set. you would think that would be impetus for him to call the shots. But that is simply not the case. We know that Joe Dumars is back in Sacramento now, but how many years did it take for him to get back in the mix? And we don't know if he's going to have final say. The man only went to 6 straight conference finals, went to back-to-back NBA finals, won an NBA championship, and couldn't buy a job. And so I look at it from that perspective, and then I think about the qualifications of the people on the market, and I'm thinking about the fact that Steve Kerr, as great as he is, and he is phenomenal, it was helped by the fact that a foundation was set for him, and he inherited Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, the greatest shooting backcourt known to man, as far as I'm concerned. And now here we are. It's KD and Kyrie. It's KD and Kyrie. And a coach that really has never been on the bench is their new head coach. And again, it's hard because if you do your homework on Steve Nash, he is an outlier. This is a special brother. He's a special person. He's a good dude. He's highly knowledgeable. His IQ on basketball is off the charts. I have no doubt whether it's Popovich, whether it's D'Antoni, whether it's Steve Kerr or anybody else, he'll have recommendations out the wazoo. I am not questioning Steve Nash. Major props to him. I wish him nothing but the best, and I do believe he will be successful in Brooklyn. I'm just saying that right now, with all of this stuff that's happening, with the black candidates that were out there that actually have resumes, and you got 2 stars in Kyrie Irving and KD, who assures you as a coach, you will win games. You may or may not win the championship. We'll find out. But they ain't losing. So whoever gets this job is automatically good for about 50 wins a season. To have that kind of situation and to have qualified black coaches and to not have them in those positions, it just resonates with me because every time a black coach gets a damn job, we get young teams, they stink, you got to build something or whatever. But when you build it like Mark Jackson, you end up gone, okay? Or
Stephen
Ty
A., you're
Lue,
right about
when
Mark
LeBron
Jackson
leaves,
building
suddenly
it.
we don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
It's that stuff, man.
You're right
it
about-
hurts, man. It
You're
hurts
right about Mark
because Steve
Jackson.
Nash is such a good dude.
You're right about Mark Jackson building something special in Golden State, but the fact remains they took a quantum leap forward in terms of their offense when Steve Kerr got there. It is unclear to me that they ever win a championship with Mark Jackson. Maybe it would have happened, but not with the offense as it was. And with Steve Kerr, they really became a juggernaut.
That ain't the point.
If you look back and say, was that the right thing to do? In retrospect, I was arguing it wasn't. What are you doing to Mark Jackson? Or back then I was arguing that. In retrospect, yes, it seems to me they made the right decision. And this may also prove to be the right decision.
Fellas, do me a favor. Work with me here. We got to get in a commercial break. Yes, Stephen A., we're going to have much more on this. Nash obviously taking over Brooklyn. You mentioned the Golden State Warriors. After working as a player development consultant with the Warriors for the past 5 years, we're going to have Richard Jefferson join us later. David Fizdale, obviously a coach, former coach now, someone who took over a team that you had to build from the ground up, who is African-American. Can't wait to hear his perspective. We're going to be all over the story, also the playoff games last night. So let's take a break now. I want to dive into some NFL quickly after this break, fellas. Wait